Hello my dear anime fans, welcome to another best anime recap video. We've got a good one for you here. Picture this, a warrior will do anything for the love of his life, including battling monstrous creatures in the 9 circles of hell. Enjoy this recap of Dante's Inferno, an animated epic. Dante returns to his family after 3 years away from home since he departed to fight in the war. He can't wait to see his beloved Beatrice, to whom he has promised eternal fidelity. But when he finally gets on his father's farm, he notices something weird is going on. When he first entered the house, it was quite dark and silent. He discovers everyone is dead on the floor, their bodies strewn about. Her father is sitting at the table. His stomach was torn open, and his organs protruded. He rushes to Beatrice's chamber, begging to God that his sweetheart is still alive. When he enters her room, there is blood all over the place. When Dante glances out the window, he sees Beatrice laying outside. Despite her injuries, she manages to speak a few words to her lover. He inquires as to who was responsible for the tragedy, but Beatrice responds that it was an outsider who she did not know. The woman recalls Dante swearing the night before he left that despite spending all that time away from her, he would not succumb to the temptations of the body. Beatrice immediately accuses him of cheating on her, but Dante insists that he would never do such a thing. The woman was unable to withstand the wounds and died in his arms. Beatrice's spirit departs her body and begins to climb to heaven, but before she arrives, a demon rises from beneath the earth and catches the woman's soul and transports her to hell. Dante mounts his horse and pursues them, but before he can get through the gates, additional creatures come to stop him. He defeats them and, from afar, witnesses his sweetheart being dragged into the depths of hell. A demon's huge arm rises from the earth and snatches Dante as he wails in front of the gates. They then stitch a crimson cross on his chest and body, creating a live tapestry of his worst sins. The demons leave once the horrible torment is done, and the man wonders why God allowed all of this to happen to him. Despite having just had his flesh practically sewed together, no suffering was worse for him than losing the love of his life. His desire to save her is so strong that he opens the gates of hell with his own hands and confronts Beatrice and the monster that had kidnapped her. Beatrice stated that she did not think Dante had broken his pledge and pleaded with him not to let her be snatched by the demon. Dante dives after her and enters hell when the demon carries her to the depths. His first encounter is with Virgil, who informs him that everything is occurring because of a wager Beatrice made with Lucifer in order for Dante to return home safely. She gambled that during their time together, Dante would never betray her. If she lost the bet, Lucifer might take her soul and bring it to hell with him. After hearing this, Dante declares once more that he never wronged Beatrice and requests that Virgil guide him through this realm so that he might save his lover. The poet accepts the request and accompanies him to Charon's boat, which will transport them to the first circle of hell. Along with them, scores of spirits are walking towards the same goal, Limbo. Charon orders demons to assault Dante since no living person is permitted to enter. Dante fights them off, but he loses his sword and must use one of the demon's sides. He then kills Charon and steers him into the first circle, Limbo. Meanwhile, at Lucifer's lair, Beatrice experiences horrifying attacks in a number of ways, ranging from visions of Dante's death to her body being fully burnt. According to Lucifer, it would be a lot of joy to have the woman die 1,000 times. When Dante arrives in Limbo, he discovers a newborn and wonders how a baby might have gotten down there. When he touches it, the man is able to view all of the events that led up to his arrival. He realizes that the kid inside Beatrice's womb was actually his son. Beatrice had a miscarriage and lost the baby shortly after Dante departed to fight in the Crusades. The unborn in Dante's hands crumbles to ash, and soon after, other demons appear from behind the woods. They disguise themselves as newborns and use their claws to try and kill him. Dante defeats some of them, but thousands of fresh demons appear, making it impossible to destroy them all. Dante escapes with the assistance of Virgil and arrives at a chamber inhabited by the shadows of ancient kings and scholars such as Caesar, Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle. Then he reaches the realm of King Minos of Crete, who is in charge of judging the souls of the wicked in hell. In order to move forward and reach the last circle of hell where Lucifer and Beatrice, where Dante will need to defeat him. The warrior tears Minos apart with his lethal blade, and as the king leans down to fight back, Dante chops off his arm, causing his skull to be torn apart by the thorny wheel he used to cast his judgments. Following that, King Minos remains degraded, and the criminals take advantage of the circumstance and attempt to flee. Dante continues on his journey until he reaches the second circle, the Circle of Lust. There are the souls of sinners who have succumbed to physical desire. Dante enters the portal and encounters various demons disguised as women who attempt to seduce him. Because they can't force him to give in to his carnal urges, the hellish creatures come together to attack him. One by one, Dante manages to destroy them but is surrounded by the memory of the betrayal he had committed against the woman he swore to love during the period when he fought in the Crusades. Dante accepted a prisoner's offer to spend the night at her side in exchange for his stopping her husband's execution. As he approaches into the third circle, Dante confesses his betrayal to Virgil and expresses his deep regret. He discovers hundreds of souls of sinners who have succumbed to gluttony just ahead of him, being consumed by Cerberus, the circle's guardian. The poet warns him that in order to progress, Dante must eliminate the genuine circle of gluttony that is situated within that creature's stomach. Dante approaches him and, while attempting to eliminate the guardian, is swallowed. He discovers several consumed souls within the beast's stomach. Among them is a city inhabitant who begs for assistance. Dante, using the powers of the cross bestowed upon him by his lover, frees that man's soul and, as a result, awakens the shadow who guards that area, informing him that his father is also imprisoned in hell. Dante discovers Cerberus' heart while walking within his body and goes to destroy it. With his deadly scythe, he tears out the animal's heart. He is expelled from the creature's body at that point, and while attempting to flee, he falls into the abyss and is consigned to the fourth circle, which houses all the souls snatched by greed. In this loop, they are all being destroyed by what they love the most in this world, which is paradoxical. Being in that location reminds Dante of his father, who was obsessed with his worldly belongings. When he suspected his wife of stealing a penny, he severely attacked her. Dante's mother died a year later from a high fever, or so he believes. While speaking with Virgil, Dante is astonished by the arrival of his father, who has a repulsive appearance and was sent by Lucifer to slay his son in return for 1,000 years of pain-free life and unlimited gold. Dante continues to argue, but his father is adamant about standing up to him. They trade blows, and when Dante sees an opportunity to destroy him, he swings his reaper in his direction. But his father manages to avoid it. Dante, without a weapon to protect himself, draws the man he has always disliked to a cauldron of molten gold. He braces himself, kicks him in the face, and knocks him inside, destroying his soul. Still grieving over his father's death, Dante travels to the fifth circle, where the souls of those gripped by wrath suffer while trapped in the dark muck of the river Styx. Phlegyas, the guardian, is summoned by Virgil to assist them in crossing the river. Angry souls try to stop them as they pass, and when they get on the other side, Dante enters the city of Dis, which is populated by the priests of darkness. There was a wedding between Lucifer and Beatrice, who, despite her hatred for him, had no option but to marry him, especially after discovering her lover's infidelity. When Lucifer sees Dante and Phlegyas approaching, he strikes them and escapes with Beatrice into the depths in order to entice Dante. But first he must pass the sixth circle, which is destined to scorch the profane in everlasting hellfire in the circle of heresy. Farinata emerges in his way and warns him that Beatrice will marry Lucifer and rule in hell with him. Dante, on the other hand, will be imprisoned in that realm for the rest of his life. Hearing this, he becomes enraged and pierces that spirit's eye. He travels to the seventh circle, where he encounters the Minotaur in charge of protecting the passageway between the sixth and seventh circles. However, this time Dante defeats the opponent with ease because this beast is blessed with a lot of brawn but little intelligence. Dodging his strikes was all that was required to get rid of him. Finally, Dante comes to the seventh circle, which is reserved for the souls of those who employ violence against their fellow men. He has Nessus the Centaur's assistance this time to cross the river of blood. Along the journey, arms emerge from the water and attempt to seize them, but Nessus is faster and manages to bring them safely over. Dante arrives in the forest of those who committed suicide, where those who commit violence against themselves reside. He hears a familiar voice and chooses to go in that way, but what he sees breaks his heart. When the warrior finds his mother, he realizes that she too is among the damned. Her soul explains to him that she did not die of the illness, but rather committed suicide because she despised the man she was married to and was too weak to confront him. Dante, with tears in his eyes, uses his cross to release his mother's spirit and send her to paradise. Still in the seventh circle, Dante comes to the flaming sands, which house the spirits of those who commit acts of aggression against God. In this desert, he encounters his friends from the Crusades, including Francesco, Beatrice's brother. Dante is taken aback to find them at that location. He thought that the cause for which they were fighting was sacred and that they had been freed of all their faults, as the bishop had pledged. Francesco tells him that the priest lied to him. There was never a holy war since God never forgives violence of any form. After saying that, Francesco, whom Dante considers a brother, pulls his sword and goes for Dante, claiming that he doesn't deserve the life he has and doesn't even deserve Beatrice. When he was about to die, Dante stands up, recovers his scythe, and crushes his old friend's sword before cutting Francesco's skull in half with a single stroke, and the man's body, along with the other men, turns to ash. Dante and Virgil continue on their journey with Geryon, a serpent with wings that transports them to the 8th circle, the circle of fraud. Dante must now race to the last circle since Beatrice is going to marry Lucifer. As he defeats the demons, he notices his lover transforming into an evil entity all through the marriage. Beatrice becomes corrupted after eating the forbidden fruit, succumbing to human sins and becoming the queen of hell. After the change, Beatrice seeks vengeance on Dante for his falsehoods and her condemnation to hell. She attacks him with all her might, while Dante begs her forgiveness, stating that he walked through all the circles of hell and faced all of his sins in order to save her. The doorway to the 9th circle opens at that point. The traitors circle and Beatrice declares that this is Dante's domain. He begged forgiveness for all the pain he had caused, but the woman is adamant that she would never be able to forgive him. Dante then raises the crucifix that Beatrice had given him before his departure and claims to have returned it to her. With this, the man frees the soul of his beloved Beatrice, leaves behind the title of Queen of Hell, and gives her soul again to God, stating that she forgives Dante. The woman's soul is subsequently taken to heaven by an angel. Dante is approached by Virgil, who informs him that in order to claim his position by Beatrice's side, he must fight Lucifer in the circle of traitors. To Dante's dismay, the location was not ringed by fire, but rather was a cold and barren wasteland. He journeys into the darkness in quest of his opponent and encounters a lost soul along the way who informs him that Lucifer lives in the middle of that area and reveals the precise directions so that Dante may reach that place. After a long journey facing the cold and darkness, Dante came to a path blocked by chains of ice. On the other side of that passage, he meets the Lord of Hell. Dante begins his assault when Lucifer cruelly taunts him. He pierces one of Lucifer's eyes before climbing to his head to execute the ultimate blow. The devil's head is severed and he falls at Dante's feet. When the man believes he has defeated Lucifer, he returns and explains that many have tried but no one has been able to vanquish him so far. Despite this, he concludes that Dante is without a doubt the greatest of his slaves. According to Lucifer, Beatrice was only a lure to entice him. He confesses that God imprisoned him in the circle of traitors, only permitting his shadow to wander the rest of hell. Lucifer was finally free, thanks to Dante's victory. Despite his best efforts, Dante was unable to overcome him in his new form. He survives several of his attacks, but quickly understands he won't be able to leave that area alive. Lucifer takes on a more terrifying form and launches many attacks on Dante. When Lucifer notices that the warrior lacks the strength to continue the struggle, he transports him to purgatory, where Beatrice awaits him. The demon even claims that if he gets out of the pit, he would torture all the souls in purgatory before destroying them forever. Soon after, he'd be on his way to heaven, causing havoc along the way thanks to Dante. When confronted with that dilemma, the only way to vanquish Lucifer and save Beatrice and all the other innocent souls was to turn to God for help, which he did in a prayer. Dante denounces Beatrice and declares that he has given up on his escape since he is a sinner who belongs in hell. The only thing he asks is that the Lord provide him the strength he requires to keep Lucifer in that location. A great force is unleashed from his body at that moment. The strength is sufficient to imprison Lucifer and prevent him from leaving. The door to purgatory opens at the end of the conflict, and Dante enters it. He ultimately tears the sin woven into his skin at that point and finds his way to locate Beatrice, who was waiting for him somewhere in that purgatory. After a period, the cross that was earlier sewed into Dante's breast transforms into a serpent. It appears that Lucifer has once again escaped the everlasting darkness and is now free to roam the globe seeking the destruction of souls. The end.